You got to prepare. If I'm going to tell you tomorrow you're going to be part of running a marathon, you're going to laugh because you barely walk and get out of your armchair. But if you were to go ahead and to start your training, today start walking 20 steps, tomorrow running for a minute, and then by next week, 5 minutes. By the end of a year, when you have been running for an hour or two at a time, you're in a different position altogether. And when you're ready to actually go to the marathon, you're eager to do it because you have prepared for a long period of time. The same is with Aliyah. When one makes the decision, yes, I'm going to make Aliyah, one has to go ahead and to take resources and decide how is one going to do it. Now, there were 5 things that I used to assess when I saw family, and I saw people who wanted to make Aliyah. Some things I was able to help with, and some I was not. But this is a type of measuring act of 5 different categories of things that can strengthen someone's move and resolve to make Aliyah. If you're weak in one area, you can make up for it and compensate by being stronger in another area. If you were strong in all 5 areas, you were going to succeed in Aliyah. If you were weak in all 5, the chances are you would not make a good Aliyah candidate and you'd probably fail. But some of those things can be changed and can be strengthened. And that's where we, the network, can come in and help out. Without going into the details of what those things are, the document that's available to you explains what those things are. So what are those things that we're talking about and how can we help? Well, some of those things require tutoring, require knowledge, require experience, require tutoring, and we on this end can go ahead and help those on the other end. Let me just give you a few of those examples. Financial resources. If you have a lot of money, the chances are that you have a good chance of making a successful Aliyah because A, you have resources to live and to buy what you need to buy and to go about accomplishing what you have to accomplish. But more important than that, you have the time to go ahead and prepare the other items that are not yet prepared until you go ahead and succeed. If you don't have the resources to live on for the first year or two when you first come to Israel and you have not yet found employ, you might have a difficulty in going ahead and making anything succeed because the pressure of worrying about where your next buck is going to come from, or worrying about feeding a family, worrying about having the basic minimum for comfort zone for the family is going to be troubling you so much that you won't be able to consider and think rationally about what your next steps have to be. You enter into a panic mode. So having the resources available is something which will be very helpful. Don't come when you don't have enough money to live on basically, or at least get the resources to live on for the first year or two, or have some of the other things in place that can make sure that that's not an issue. The ability to convert your employment skills to the Israel market is a very important thing for 2 reasons. One, you earn money. But more important, today, when someone works and does a job, that's part of who they are and how they see themselves and how other people see them. If you are doing a job which you feel is important, or other people see you in a position that is respectable, it gives you a certain stature in their eyes and in your own eyes that will allow you to succeed and be in a comfort zone. So let me give you an example. If someone is a social worker in America, doesn't have a college degree, doesn't speak any Hebrew, has never visited Israel, you may find some difficulty in finding a job as a social worker in Israel. You don't have the language, you don't know the country, you don't have the skills that are professionally required to be a good social worker. On the other hand, if you're a group leader in Intel and you have been working in development in the international Intel community, developing all sorts of softwares required worldwide, and you're a known name, chances are pretty good that you're going to be able to come to Israel and find a job pretty quickly. But there are all sorts of things in between. So if you know how to find a job, if you have contacts in the field, if you have the qualifications that can get you into the system, if you speak the language, if you visited Israel and know how that profession works in Israel, it puts you in a whole different position. And we can help you with that by helping you with pilot tours, with information, and preparing yourself for finding those positions that will make it easier for you to find a job early on in your coming. Speaking Hebrew is very important. knowing the language. Yes, you can get away in Jerusalem. Sorry, someone wanted to.
Akiva, I think we have
Sorry.
1 more minute. If you can wrap up real quick.
No, it's okay. But also, Dina, please, if you go on mute, that'd be great. Thank you.
So Hebrew language is a very important thing. Yes, you can get away in Jerusalem, perhaps, without being fluent in Hebrew because there's a large Anglo community. But the Hebrew you speak, the more you'll be able to have a broader connections around, the more you'll be able to move ahead professionally, the easier it will be to integrate into the existing society, because you'll have two languages, English, international language, and Hebrew, which is the lingua franca of the streets. So both of those things, the ability to convert employment skills, which allows you to get the resources, money, and the self-prestige and prestige within the community. The Hebrew language, which helps into the integration around you in the general society, are two of the important tools that I would assess to see if people had. If they didn't have it, we can help you start with an Ulpan and practicing Hebrew in advance. If you don't have the employment skills, perhaps get some of those courses and additional training that would help you get those positions, but also to have a chance, if you're younger, to be able to even work on programs in Israel as a stage, as someone who is working with others in the field to learn how the field runs and functions in Israel prior to your Aliyah, learning how you can develop those skills to get into the market here. There are other things, two other things that I'll just mention without going into the detail. Knowing how the society functions. Israel is a modern society, and it's a Western society. But sometimes the way things are seen are very different. I'll give you two quick examples. If you're talking to a group of people who are Scandinavian, and you stand up real close to them and talk to them straight to their face, and you're like really close to them, they're going to feel very uncomfortable while you're talking to them, because that's the societal language of distance and not encroaching on personal domain. On the other hand, if you're going to be talking to a group of Italians or French or other Mediterranean society people, and you're going to stand far off and talk to them from a distance without any gesticulation, but a straightforward talk, you're going to be very boring, and they're not going to want to have any part of you, because the Latin or the Mediterranean talking and gesticulation and close up and touching is very much part of the communications that are required. So how you relate to the people you're dealing with is very important as well in Israel. The typical example is if on a rainy day, a young lady walks onto a bus with a child in her hand and groceries in the other hand. And the baby is buttoned up with a jacket inside this rainy, wet, damp, lousy weather, walking onto the bus. And she comes onto the bus with one hand holding the baby, the other hand holding the groceries, and with her third hand trying to get her ticket to pay for the getting onto the bus. And the baby is all soaking because it's raining outside. And there's this lady who's sitting 3 seats away, an old lady, who gets up and yells at this slim lady and says, "How dare you carry that child like that and don't button up the shirt?" Because you see, it was a button, button, so there's like a hole in there, and the baby was getting wet. Now picture this scene in Jerusalem. How are the people going to react to that old lady who's yelling at this young mother? They're going to probably applaud, because this lady, this grandmother, who never saw this baby before in her life, is trying to go ahead and protect this young child from the mother. And what is she going to do? We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's take this scene now on First Avenue in Manhattan on 24th Street, right in front of Bellevue Hospital. And this old lady is yelling at this mother and saying, "What are you doing? How dare you take care of this baby? What are you thinking?" What are they going to do in New York to this old lady? How are they going to react to her? They'll probably say, "Get off the bus and get into Bellevue. Mind your own business." But let's go back now to the Israel side. This old Taimani mother is going to take the baby from this Russian mother and hold the baby and take the groceries while she is paying to get on the bus. And then this old Taimani lady is going to tell the child the teenager who's sitting next to her get out of his seat and give his mother a chance to sit down and take care of her baby. Because that's Israel's society. The truth is, that's really why we also want to come to Israel. Because people care. You're not going to get mugged and drop down on the street and people walk over you like in New York. Because people care. You're part of the family. And it's part of understanding how the society functions. And this lady, this old lady who's yelling at you is not angry at you. She's protecting you because she's your mother. She loves you. That's where we come in, part of the network. We love you. We want to help you. We want to go ahead and give you those tools. You can read the rest of the document and talk about which tools we're referring to. But it's referrals. It's learning how the system functions. It's learning who to speak to. It's learning how to go to the different bureaucracies. It's learning how to go through a lot of this is online. A lot of this is through some of the old organizations. But sometimes they aren't necessarily as loving as others who volunteer, who've made Aliyah, and who want to see it succeed, like us here are. And that's what we're all about. And David, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this organization, to be able to combine the sides where we who have been here in Israel and made our mistakes and learned some of those experiences can be here to help those who want to come and to go ahead and succeed in their desire to go ahead and to have a fulfilling life in a country where they can not only fulfill their own life, but be part of the history of the Jewish people and helping us as a nation fulfill our goals in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Akiva. And I just, someone asked you a question, Akiva. I think Ellen Werner asked you a question, and he asked, Akiva, how do senior citizens establish their lives in Israel independently of their children and grandchildren? How will we connect?
I'm not hearing you well.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me well?
I didn't hear you clearly. There was static.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So her question is, how do senior citizens establish their lives in Israel independently of their children and grandchildren? How would we connect with people in the USA or shul and community organizations like Bikur Cholim are our connections? How can we recreate that in Israel?
In all sorts of communities. I mean, first of all, within the communities, there are the matnasim, there are the community centers, there are the organizations. AACI has a seniors division and programming all throughout. In Jerusalem, you have the different organizations and different programs that are available, whether it's through the OU, whether it's through Young Israel, whether it's through the Bet Avichai, whether it's through different learning groups around the city. All of these groups have senior citizen groups, have connecting fraternity groups. I'm a board member also of the AACI, which runs many programs and travel opportunities and learning and social events exactly in order to accept people in and to feel comfortable with others like-minded who came from similar backgrounds and circumstances. But beyond that, in every municipality, there is today a worker who's paid by the Ministry of Immigrant Absorption and works with the municipality in order to help you prepare your Aliyah prior to your coming. So if there's need, for example, of learning the medical system, they will do that for you before you come. And they will help you get set up when you come. And they will go ahead and work with their volunteers to help bring you into the different communities. In Jerusalem, there are the community centers, and about 25 of them have local employees who deal with absorption and information for newcomers and those in need within the local communities to get that assistance. There's a whole slew of these type of organizations that are available, and those are among the things that we can help start preparing prior to your coming and meet them on earlier trips before the actual Aliyah, if you're able to do that, so that when you come, you already have friends set up waiting for you and helping you prepare your apartment that you've rented in advance.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Akiva. I really appreciate it. I hope that answers your question, Ellen. Now, for our next speaker, I already introduced him, David Vadim. I'm going to introduce him again. So David Vadim, he is a community organizer by profession, a writer and an investigative journalist. In 1987, David Vadim established the Israel Resource News Agency. And he has offices at the Beit Agron International Press Center in Jerusalem. He serves as director of the Center for Near East Policy Research. So David, you're up. Tell us more about yourself.
Okay, well, first of all, my first passion is social work. And the many years before I got into the world of journalism, I was involved in social work and helping do Olim. And basically, that's where my passion is, amongst other places. And I think that to, in a sense, complement what Akiva was just talking about is what we need to do here in Israel to make sure that the tidal wave, or we'll just say the Olim who will be coming, will be received properly. Now, people who are hearing this program who live here in Israel, I'm just going to put out 10 task forces that need to be set up right away. Because yes, the government is there. I mean, what Akiva was just saying in terms of government resources, community resources, they're out there. But if we don't have the initiative from the community, it's not going to happen. So I'm suggesting 10 initiatives that people can take and people can be involved in. And what am I talking? What people am I talking about? Well, there's a slew of people here in Israel who are retired. When you're after 65, you're not supposed to work, and you really can't work legally unless you have a real, amazing story going on. Many people are available to help out. So I'm going to think of 10 different areas that are necessary. We have to reach out to people who are coming, and I think that a lot of people are going to be coming, not only from America but from around the world, not necessarily because they want to, but because circumstances are going to force the situation. Now, the first area is employment relocation. We have to be able to have people who are always available trying to create jobs for Olim. Now, the current situation of jobs disappearing, as of 4 months ago, no one would have thought this. We had such an experience here of full employment. All of a sudden, it's not there. How to create jobs, how to create possibilities to make a living is one of the first things we need to do. We need to have a task force to do that. The second area has to do with home hospitality. Now, very often around the world, people think that people come to Israel and they have family here. They don't always have family here. And the issue of warm outreach, whether the person's in a Merkaz Klita or the person's come on his own, but we're going to have lists of people who will be coming here and really don't know anyone, and how to receive people in their homes. Now, I want to give an example, which is rather extreme, but you never know. When I was a young fellow, I used to go to people's houses for Shabbat. I mean, I've been married with 6 kids and 10 grandchildren for the last, I've been a family man for almost 40 years. But before that, I visited a lot of people and heard their stories. One story I heard, a lady said to me, she heard I was born in 1950. She said, well, in 1950, that year here in Yerushalayim, there was a big problem. What was the problem? There was a terrible winter, and all of the temporary housing was destroyed in the rain that came down. And rabbis got on the air and said, take people in your homes now. And all throughout Yerushalayim, people had small homes. This was before the German reparations. And by the way, there wasn't even running water in Jerusalem until 1956. Anyway, she says in her family, they absorbed a family of 6 in their living room for 6 to 9 months because there was nowhere else to take them. And I think the possibility of a situation where people who have large homes where some of the kids have moved out, and people have living rooms, we're going to have to think of possibilities of putting people up with families and finding families willing to receive people, willing to absorb people in that first stages of crazy Aliyah. Now, we want to have to find people who are willing to do everything possible to make it comfortable for people who may be coming here overnight in a situation of emergency. The third area is a counseling committee. We need to have people trained in mental health work, trained in counseling, who are able to address the mental capacities excuse me, of people as they come over here. The Aliyah process is nuts. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. When you're here, you miss your family abroad, or you miss what was before. You need to talk it out. And when you walk up to people in the streets in Jerusalem, or anywhere. Or you came from America, why'd you leave America? Or you came from Europe, why did you leave? And people don't know their story. It's very important to have people who know how to counsel people in situations of emergencies and situations of distress. It needs to be in every possible place where there's olim, people who are able to give them themselves and to help. Fourth area is there where we might call civics. How does the Israeli government operate on a practical basis? Everything from driver's licenses to you name it, to taxes, to anything, including police. There's just not many things not understood, and no one is really out there to explain it. And that's something that you need to be able to explain to people who are new here how things work. Another area which is interesting is shidduchim. A lot of single people coming to Israel. There's not really a lot of frameworks for people to meet, but to organize those frameworks, people willing to organize frameworks for single people of all ages to meet is a very, very important thing. Another area is history and geography. Most people coming to Israel, most people who live in Israel, don't know the basics of what's going on here or what was. It's something I've discovered from my 6 children who are now adult children, that they've been through the schools here in Israel, and they haven't learned about the 48 war, the 67 war, the 73 war. I mean, I was here to live through the 73 war, but they just don't know basics. We need to have people who are able to teach what happened here and what has happened, and all the people who have experienced things in Israel and like to talk about it. They're available. It's very important to give perspective. Also, we need to share issues of geography. Next issue is the media. Helping people understand how they can find out what's going on, even if they don't know Hebrew yet. What are the ways to do it? Also, there's rumor mills, how you cope with it. Another area is guide to medical services. A special group of people who will help guide new immigrants through the medical system here. It's much better than it used to be, but it's still, in French we say balagan. It's still a mess. It's still not exactly clear, and many things can become clear. In areas I hinted at before, the law enforcement system. Unfortunately, olim are prime targets for con artists, and how to deal with that is very important. And last but not least, spiritual guidance. We need a group of people to be involved in spiritually guiding people, not only religiously, but also in terms of keeping people's hopes up when the situations get tough. So we need basically a task force in each area, people ready to work, ready to help, so that when the time comes, they can be called upon. It's like a parallel system to the Aliyah system, but it's the community that will really make a difference. And so, from my long experience as a social worker here in Yerushalayim and Sfat, and my own volunteer work over the years, I believe that this is something that needs to be done to create in a sense, a welcoming community in a structured kind of a fashion. And you never know how fast it's going to hit, but I can just tell you, sitting where I'm at my office right now, in 1987, when we realized that the Russians were going to come in en masse, five people got together. One of them was Yuri Stern, who later became part of the Knesset. He died young. He was, as I watched him die, he watched him fall apart during the Gush Katif expulsion. So he just had a broken heart from what they did. But these 5 people energized hundreds and hundreds of people. So that's it.
Hi, David. I think just to wrap up, if you have anything to add, just for 15, 30 more seconds, we're pressed on time. Okay.
Thank you for having me. And I think that having people get together who are better in olim in all possible languages. There's a lot of people ready to help, and let's recognize this as a tremendous opportunity.
Thank you. And I want to introduce our next speaker, Yehuda HaKohen. He is the founder of the Vision Movement. Yehuda, are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you so much to the organizers for having me and giving me space to speak. I think that what I heard, Akiva and David talk about is very valuable and important to keep in mind for anybody really making Aliyah or who've already made Aliyah. I'm going to come with a slightly different approach. It's going to be less practical. You know, as you said, Ariel, I'm part of what's called the Vision Movement. A lot of our work is very Aliyah focused. But really, I would say that it begins with the psychological shift to seeing oneself as really living in Jewish history. I think that a lot of us tend to live in a story. You know, some of us are living in the American dream, but as Jews, you know, alongside Italians and Puerto Ricans and everybody else. And the goal is to achieve the American dream, but, you know, maybe with kosher restaurants and Shabbat once a week. And some of us are living in the story of Am Yisrael coming back to life after 2,000 years. And my experience has been, from an educational perspective, that if you can psychologically shift someone's paradigm to living in Jewish history, living in the story of Am Yisrael, then Aliyah becomes a no-brainer. Like Aliyah it just starts to pull, right? The land of Israel just starts to pull a person home. And there's a lot of really valuable practical advice that I'm hearing. You know, I'm in this country already 19 years, and a lot of what David and Akiva have said and others have resonated with me in terms of my own experiences. But I think the most important thing is the frame of mind, is to know that we are on an adventure. We're participating in one of the most amazing and climactic chapters of Jewish history. You know, we really need to understand ourselves as participants in that story, to ask ourselves what the goals of Jewish history really are, what's already been accomplished, what's left to achieve, what's standing in the way of those achievements, and what we can do to be characters in the story of smashing those obstacles and actually advancing Jewish liberation forward. You know, we have an advantage to a certain extent because what I would call, you know, when I talk about the Zionist era, I would refer to the years between, you know, the 1890s and 1967 as like the Zionist era. And the Zionist, all the different Zionists, the labor Zionists and the religious Zionists and the revisionist Zionists and the cultural Zionists, all impacted Jewish history and all participated. You know, even the friction between them was a major component in driving our people home and driving our movement forward, you know, advancing our liberation. And now I think we need to do the same thing. I think we need to kind of assess, in the wake of all of Zionism's successes, we need to acknowledge ourselves to be living in the chapter of Jewish history directly following Zionism, directly following the Zionist chapter. We need to formulate for ourselves what Jewish liberation looks like now. What is Jewish liberation in the 21st century? What was the purpose of coming back to life? What is the state of Israel supposed to be a tool to achieve in the world, right? Meaning the state of Israel shouldn't be seen as the goal of our revolution, but rather as a tool with which to achieve the goals of our revolution. And ask ourselves, what are the goals of Jewish history in this unique chapter that the Kadosh Baruch Hu put me in? And how can I play a meaningful role, be a major character, or even a minor character in actually identifying the goals of Jewish history right now and achieving them. And if we all do that, you know, I see that there's 46 people on this call right now. We might come to 46 different conclusions, and that's okay. As I said before, you know, the friction between the rival Zionist ideological tendencies, the friction between, you know, the revisionists and the labor Zionists, the friction between the cultural Zionists and the labor Zionists, et cetera, that friction created momentum, and that momentum brought our people forward. So if everybody on this call were to, you know, those of us who are already in the land of Israel and those of us who have yet to come back to the land of Israel, if all of us take the time to really formulate for ourselves what we think the objectives of Jewish history are now in this generation, and we come to 46 different conclusions, and we create 46 different ideological tendencies, different streams of Jewish liberation, then, you know, we'll still, through advancing each of our 46 different isms, drive Jewish history forward. And I think that really needs to be the mentality. And my experience has been, I've known a lot of people, you know, in the course of my, you know, 19 years here, I've known a lot of people who've made Aliyah and had a really successful experience and lived successful lives, regardless of whether their bank account is full or empty. But they're living, you know, they're really living the adventure of participating in history. And I know quite a few people who've been discouraged and given up. And I think that it's really helpful, regardless of the challenges and regardless of the different ways we could potentially, react to those challenges, address those challenges as individuals struggling in a new society. I think that ultimately it's the state of mind that says, I am participating in rebuilding Hebrew civilization after 2,000 years of exile. No one said it's supposed to be easy. There are going to be hard times, and during those hard times, it's important to remind ourselves that any of our sages who would have the opportunity to switch places with us would. For 2,000 years, we dreamt of this, and now we, for whatever reason, were uniquely chosen to be put into this world in a generation, in a chapter of Jewish history where it's a reality, where it's actually happening, and we have the ability to really participate in bringing Am Yisrael back to life. And it's not over. The story didn't end in 1967. It was a chapter of the story that ended in 1967, but we need to carry it the rest of the way. And anyone coming here with that attitude, I believe B'ezrat Hashem will be blessed with a very successful Aliyah, even if they end up with an empty bank account, for a few years. That's not what, it's not, I think that's an important point, because those of us who come from Western countries, one disagreement I have with Akiva is I don't think Israel's a Western country. I think there are Western features to Israeli society, but bigadol, I don't think it's a Western society. And I think one of the major differences between Israel and Western societies is that Western societies put the emphasis on the material well-being of the individual, whereas Hebrew society puts the emphasis on the moral well-being of the collective. And I think that that's part of the Aliyah process. Part of it is a paradigm shift towards defining success differently. In the United, I grew up in New York City. I'm born and raised in Manhattan. I know that where I grew up, success is measured by how much you're making and what kind of car you're driving and what kind of apartment you have and your view of Central Park or the river or whatever. That's not, I happen to have a great view. I live on a mountain just near Beit El. I have a fantastic view any direction I look, Baruch Hashem, but that's not how we measure success here. Here we measure success based on the extent to which I'm participating, I'm contributing to the rebirth of Hebrew civilization, after 2,000 years of exile. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for having me, and I wish everybody a success in building what we're here to build.
Thank you very much, Yehuda. And lastly, I want to reintroduce David Eskenazi, the founder of Aliyah Network. I've gotten to know him very well the past few months. He's been a very good friend, and he has a lot to share with you guys about the Aliyah Network and what the Aliyah Network's mission is. Without further ado, here is David Eskenazi.
Thanks again, Ariel. I appreciate that. I got to tell you, it's a humbling experience to be with these fine individuals tonight, speaking about what they've been doing for the past 40 plus years, and other individuals who've been working on these initiatives for so long. This is something that I've only been doing since January. We just wanted to make a difference. We wanted people to know that we can connect on a very high level, and that the people of Israel here are there for you, and that we're all connected. And I just knew that if we could just keep a positive attitude, right? And we could look towards a great future for Am Yisrael, for our country, for our people, then it's in our hands to do. I had no clue that we would have all these vectors of change that's bringing us to this point. Could not have seen that. Who could have? But I know in my heart that we have a great future ahead of us. There's a lot of work. Everything Dave said, everything Akiva said, everything Aliyah said, everybody. It's all true. And really, we're here to express our love and to really be there and to try to support one another through these times. And everybody now is going to be standing up. That's what I believe. I believe that everybody has the opportunity to shine, to make an impact, like everybody here said, and know that the Aliyah Network is going to do its best to create the kind of tool, the kind of environment, the kind of communication,
5 minutes.
the kind of searchability to be able to make that happen. And if you guys think that what we've done so far is something, we're just getting started. I think we're coming up at the end of the hour, and I'm really excited for everybody, for Jacqueline, right, in the US, who was here in the beginning, to everybody, Chev, I see here, I see Ellen and Shoshana and everybody, Robin, Diamond, come on. These are all great people. We're all together. So get excited about the possible future. We're going to put our thinking caps on together, and we're going to bring Am Yisrael home together. Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody. There's so many other people that have been involved in this. It's not one person's initiative. It's all of ours. So with that, thank you, everybody. Look forward to more in the future. We're happy to leave this line open for anybody who wants just to say hello and embrace this moment because it's coming. Thank you.
Woohoo! Amazing.
Thank you.
I do also want to add that I know there are a lot of questions that everyone has, and the Aliyah network and the Facebook group is a platform where anyone can post their questions on there, because the whole point of the Aliyah network is, for Olim to share their experiences and how they dealt with the same questions you're dealing with right now. And for instance, I know one of my friends actually, she just asked me, can anyone answer if there are schools for American children? If I'm a Tushav Chazer after 20 years, will my children be eligible to be in American schools? They don't speak Hebrew. Also, if anyone knows if a radiology technologist can work with licensing from New York. If anyone has any answers for her, I guess please reach out and we will forward it to her. But this back and forth is fantastic. We have a platform for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one more thing I'll say, since you're still here and we're over time, I will love to get the opportunity to keep on sharing my vision with whoever wants to hear it from my perspective. I can't tell you how grateful I am to be in this position to do just this. And, we're going to be able to explore these options and these abilities together. So it's go time. Absolutely. Thank you, Akiva. Thank you, everybody. If you guys want to hang out, introduce yourself, say hello. I think we're wrapping up.
It's a Jader.
One more time.
What is that?
Thank you very much. This is amazing.
Hananel, how are you?
Eliakim, you rock this, man. That was really cool. All your urgency. It's good.
Oh yeah.
Some
truth.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say thank you for your story and all valuable information. I'm kind of with you with a lot of what you said, living in Wisconsin. Okay. And the world situation kind of gets a lot of us. I have friends that aren't Jewish that are even thinking about America too. They're not sure about it. Other countries they might go to at some point. So we all have different views and different reasons. I mean, I thought about immigrating to Israel a couple of years ago because I do have a daughter there, but there's more layers now. There's different reasons, anti-Semitism, just different things that I don't live in a community that necessary. I mean, we do obviously have synagogues and everything, but we don't have this large community in different areas, and it's just not the same as some years ago. Things have changed. I mean, not to get paranoid or anything, but one of my daughters, also my other daughter, wants me to, move and not stay. If I was to stay in Wisconsin, not stay here. But the point is I was thinking of Israel a couple of years ago, anyways, for other reasons. But there's more added to it now.
Absolutely.
Hi, this is Ellen Werner Schaller. My husband Elliot is also on, and I'm the mother of Aaron and Bubby of Tuvia, who's there, and also my daughter Ilana, who lives in Zichron, who's not on, but she's a successful Ola with, thank God, 2 girls. And I just want to say that we live in Potomac, Maryland, a nice, very comfortable Orthodox community, tons of Jewish resources here, easy to connect. But I will tell you one thing that haunts me that was said by a child of a Holocaust survivor is, we did not have family who died in the Shoah. Everybody got out before. But one thing that haunts me is the statement from a child of a Holocaust survivor who said, "You don't understand, you don't know, you can't tell the signs. We know it's happening." And I just want all of us to keep that in mind. Doesn't mean we have to panic, but it does mean we have to be very aware and know when to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Bring up a good point, because there's multiple Holocaust survivors that have been writing in, you know, many different Jewish publications, left and right, whatever it is, that, you know, they heard the stories from their parents and their grandparents, and they're seeing the signs. I mean, they're so blatantly obvious. I wanted to make them as blunt as possible so people could see, you know what? You said we live in a very comfortable community. It's comfortable today. I mean, you know, these things change very rapidly. And like I said, you know, I'm very into history. I'm very into, there's not many people that know more about World War II than me. These people, if you go to Yad Vashem, the most powerful part of Yad Vashem is the very first section that you go into. It's basically late 20s, early 30s. You read the newspaper clippings, you read, you know, you see different things that were on the media. And every single person that goes through said, how in the world could these people stay? How did they not understand when every single newspaper is saying stuff about the Jews? But it's the history of our people. We really, you know, it's very hard to admit that you're living in a place that hates you. I mean, that's really the basic reality, and it's not pleasant to think about, but it is out there. And I mean, again, like I said, the most powerful part, and I know a lot of people in here, I know Uri is in here. We know a lot of people from France. You ask any French person that's made Aliyah, I'm telling you, they are so blatantly open and honest about it because they want people to understand that it's real. It's not, you know, this isn't a movie, this is whatever. These are people that literally fled Paris. And another interesting thing is they say flat out that when they're trying to sell their homes, the Gentiles tell them very specifically, we're not giving you even close to what you're offering because in a few years, you're going to be running away anyway. So take this lowball offer and go. I mean, I've heard this from multiple people. It's scary out there. Has it hit America yet like this? No. Paris, there's nothing like Paris in the world. America's not like that yet. But who says it's that far away? You never know how far away it is. I mean, you see the streets. Jacqueline, we were talking before. You live in, you know, in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Talk about an idyllic, you know, quiet, peaceful town. That place has turned into a war zone. My mom grew up in Minneapolis. Minneapolis is now a total hellhole. These things change overnight because that's what God wants. There is no future in the diaspora. One thing I left out because I had to rush a little bit. 2015, the chief rabbi of Europe specifically said, and I quote, "There is no future for Jews in Europe." This is the chief rabbi of Europe. Many of you heard this statement. It's not going to be that long until the chief rabbi of Brooklyn and of whatever makes similar statements. So, but again, the point of all of this is you should be running towards Israel because yes, we have problems and we have bureaucracy, but this is home. It's home.
I would just like to request those of us who are over 65, if there can be some way for us to work and contribute to Israel, to Am Yisrael, to Medinat Yisrael while we're there, that would be important because I also predict when we leave, the rest of the countries, including the US, will become third world countries.
Yeah, well, they're on their way.
Look at the Jews. Look at the Jews in the US, what we've achieved. All right, we leave,
Yeah.
this country becomes a third world country. And my son and my husband have heard this from me for years.
I would just like to say something about, first of all, I agree with everything that I'm hearing here, but I also want to just express my great gratitude to Hashem, as well as to you and your organizations, that we have these tremendous resources available to us who want to make Aliyah. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, did they have these kind of resources 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? No, they had nothing like this. We have so much help. I mean, you are just examples of this incredible help that we have to make Aliyah with everything, thinking of all these things that we need. It's just amazing, and it's such a bracha, and I just wanted to say that and say thank you.
Wow, that was, couldn't have said that better. That's precisely what's happening.
Amazing.
Anybody else?
Who else wants to say hello that hasn't spoken yet?
Yeah.
Go
I'd
ahead.
love to say hello.
Who's that?
This is Aaron.
Aaron. Hi, how are you?
Yes. Hi, good. First of all, David, thank you very much for making this possible. David and his wife Marcy are the strength behind the Aliyah Network. And one thing that I just really, it was said, but I want to make sure that it's really, really clear, because so much of what's been said tonight circles around what are we going to do and how are we going to mobilize and how are we going to connect to what we need to connect to in Israel. And that's exactly the tool that the Ashkenazis built. That's what the Aliyah Network is. Right now, we're all connecting through Zoom and we can connect through Facebook, and there's all other places we can connect through. But the centralized tool that can be the tool for all of Aliyah in the future is the Aliyah Network. It's literally a social network. You can go in, you can create a group of any type that you want to, and get your friends involved, and find who you connect with, find your tribe, and just go there. There's a start here page that you can start learning about how to use it, and start using it. Like that's exactly what it's for. That's my plug.
It's a great plug. Yeah, there's no
You
question
guys
about it.
are awesome. Thank you so
Great.
much. Thank you so much.
So good to speak with you. How are you? You're very welcome. Listen, we're doing this together for sure. All of us, by the way. It's an incredible thing. Think about my perspective. It was just a thought, guys. All I thought was, we got to do something. So let's just fall forward. And, that's what we're going to do. We're going to continuously fall forward, guys, until, we've done what we needed to do. And the tool that Aaron just said, which is the Aliyah Network, is the tool that could really bring it together. And what's really remarkable from my perspective is truly the Achdut. I know that, Eliyakim, everything you're saying is true. There is a lot of serious stuff that we need to be looking at. I'm always looking at the very positive things. I can't help it. When you see what's possible, when you really see that, you go for it, And what could be the life in Israel here for people from around the world is going to be a no-brainer that this is the place where they're going to want to be. It's going to be a no-brainer. So that's what I truly believe is in our future. And I'm very, very excited about it. And to have this moment with everybody here today, it's surreal for me. So, this is what's happened. I see that Rivka is here from New York. Rivka, you want to say anything? No, come on. Remember the time we were dancing in my front yard before I made Aliyah? Come on.
Yeah, go ahead, unmute yourself.
You got to unmute yourself, though, Rivka. There's a little mute thing on the corner. Nope, not yet. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that, but you're just one of my favorite people in the entire world. You're still muted. Okay.
I just want to say thank you. It was beautiful today and all the valuable information. I'm going to have to go and we'll be on it again soon.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. We loved having you. We look forward.
Okay. Thank you for meeting everybody. Have a great time. Bye-bye.
Anyway, hi, it's Rivka from Far Rockaway and Hillcrest. But yeah, I was at let's say some of the birth pangs of these thoughts of David and Marcy, who were my neighbors for a number of years. And I've always, put a lot of energy and time into hearing who they are, what they want, what they're looking for, what they're hoping to achieve in Eretz Yisrael. I remember when they left, and yes, we all danced and sang Lashana Haba, and I've watched the whole progression, and I get a lot of joy seeing a couple who are truly participating in life in Eretz Yisrael. And I think that that's really what it's about, and I believe that that's the theme of this webinar, which I'm so happy to be part of. I almost couldn't make it, but I said, no, there's no way I'm missing it. So I think that is really, truly the theme. How do we find our niche in a way that's meaningful so that we can participate? I mean, it's our land. We are part of Am Yisrael. every one of us is counted, whether we feel we have the skills developed or we not yet have developed skills, it's irrelevant. We are all part of this incredible nation, and we have the opportunity to move to the land that is so inviting with Nefesh B'Nefesh and Aliyah Network and so many organizations to just help pave the way for each individual. So I guess I want to just give a bracha to this group. And the bracha that I want to give is, please have no fear. I know it's hard not to have fear, but really it's about putting all those fears aside and being the strong trailblazer that you are as a Jew, no matter where you live. If you live in America, you're not an American Jew. You're a Jewish American right now. You live wherever you live. You are a Jew first. And I hope that we can concretize that individually and just make our way to the land that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. So put the fears aside and, and let's all do this together and help each other. And I know that it could be an incredible success. So,
One more thing before I have to sign off. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Came out of the room with tears in her eyes, and she said, "You made me want to make Aliyah." I don't think people realize the impact that when they hear that someone made Aliyah with, Israelis, all the wars, all the rockets, all the stuff with the government, Gush Katif, whatever it is. When they see people live, I mean, you ask any Israeli where they want to be, a lot of them will tell you, "I want to move to America." So when they see Americans coming the other way, it really is impactful for them, and it really inspires them. And we do a lot for the country by just being here and being proud to be here, and it makes them proud to be here and appreciate. When you're born into something, sometimes you lose sight of why it's so valuable. When I hear stuff like this, when my wife sees that 50, 60 people are sitting here talking about Israel, why we want to move here, it's very powerful. And I think we should never underestimate what we can bring, each one of us, to this community, whether you live here or not, whether you want to make Aliyah. We bring something to, making Aliyah is like being a Baal Tshuva. We bring something to the native Israelis that really touches their soul, and it's really impactful, and it's very inspiring for them. And I think we should always keep that in mind. And again, I appreciate everything that you've done. This has been an unbelievable event. Sorry, I just have to put my kid to sleep.
I love you. I love you like a brother, man. Thank you for making
it so
it
much.
happen.
Thoughts, everybody.
I can't wait for more.
Bye.
All right, so you know what, maybe
with a comment about
we keep it going. We're loving the love. Out of respect to everybody, I don't want anybody to feel like that we've been going for.
Rachel, what do you want to say? Rachel, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Rachel.
I just want to say that there's an incredible amount of hashgacha here. When I came back to Israel a year and a half ago, I felt like I was plugged back into the sheka of just an incredible amount of chayus. When a Jew comes to Israel, more light flows, the tafkid, our role, can be done more powerfully, and the hashgacha here is first-person experience. Incredible. So come and feel it. Come do it with us now.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
I can add. I have to ask. Oh, go. I'm sorry. No, sorry.
Yeah, I can add. So a lot of you probably don't know me. I'm a friend of David for a couple of years now. So basically, I made Aliyah 9 years ago from New York. It was not easy, not gonna lie, but it's amazing. Like being around other Jewish people in Israel, and everybody speaks Hebrew, and it's like, wow, this is where I want to be. And it's just amazing. You're walking in the street, and people are talking Hebrew, and like everybody knows the holidays are happening, and it's like it's not weird, right? And you don't have all the like non-Jewish holidays here. It's like everything is Jewish, and even the buses are saying like Chag Sameach, all the like Shabbat Shalom. And it's like, wow, like this is my home, this is my people. Like finally, I belong, and it's just that sense of like wow, this is family. Even if like you're stuck and you don't have like money to go on the bus, somebody will help you. Like it's like, wow, we don't even know each other, but we're Jewish, so everybody helps each other out. And like I had this story happen to me a couple months ago where we went to buy some fruits and vegetables. and, and my wife and I, we basically, like, my wife was staying in the car, and I went to get some things, and then for a second she just closed the door of the car from outside, and the baby was stuck inside, but the car was still running, so the AC was still going, but it was very hot. Anyway, so we were like freaking out, like, how the heck are we going to get back in the car? So we call up this organization called what's it called, Yedidim, and right away they're like, yeah, just tell us exactly where you are, we're coming. And within like a minute, somebody came, and he was like a Hasidic guy. He was like a Haredi Hasidic guy, and like there's different types of people with different kippah. Some people don't have kippah. Some people do have kippah. Like, and it's like very different types of like sects of Jews, right? Like more religious, less religious, not religious, whatever. It doesn't matter. He didn't ask me any questions. He's like, "Where's the car? Let's go!" Boom. He just like within like a few seconds, he was able to break in, open it, see the baby's okay, everything's good. He didn't ask for any money, like nothing. It was just so beautiful. I was like, wow, Mikam Israel, like such a beautiful nation. Everybody's helping each other. Doesn't matter like who you are, what, like we're Jews, like we're helping each other. It doesn't matter. It was so beautiful. And I was like so touched by that story. I was like, wow, like whoever's not in Israel doesn't understand what's going on here. It's like a miracle every day, again and again. So I love the family feeling, and anywhere you go, like people are like, "Oh, where are you staying? Like, can we have you over? Do you need help?" Like that's the spirit. Like this is Jewish people. So if you're not living in Israel, I want to ask you, like, please turn your microphone on and tell us what's holding you back. What do you need help with? We're here for you. Please go ahead.
I noticed that we got a question from Eileen Miller. She asked, does one need Nefesh as well as this network? Thanks. And then she just added another question. May one start the process of documents if one has no idea when they would be coming? I just want to say that what we're doing is certainly not to replace the work of Nefesh B'Nefesh, but rather to work with Nefesh B'Nefesh. So when you join the network and we are able to communicate where you are on the process, we'll be able to be a somewhat of a guide for you and be able to direct you to Nefesh. So if that helps a little bit, just know that what the Aliyah Network's trying to do in a global sort of way is to really rope together some of the big organizations, even the Jewish Agency and perhaps the ACI and the Nefesh B'Nefesh, to be able to work with us to make the entire process go smoother. Like we said, like Akiva said, like David said, like we're all saying, we feel that this is truly a network of real people on the ground. And the organizations that do exist will definitely complement those, and we'll work together with them from strength to strength without a question. I hope that indirectly answers your question. Perhaps if somebody wants to answer that more specifically, go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
David, I'd like to add to that. So I'm Bobby, and if you go on the Aliyah Network webpage, I do like practical stuff. That's my stuff. One of the things I remember most about Aliyah is we wound up at our apartment, and a friend of mine from the old country lives about, well, at the time it was about a little over half an hour away, and he came by and he brought us a kumkum, and I had never thought about bringing a kumkum, a coffee pot, and like, and a hot plate, and stuff I just didn't have. I'm like, we'll worry about that when we get there. So I'm trying to personally, I try to fill in the gaps of, hey, like what are the practical things that I either found out while researching Aliyah, because between the time we decided to make Aliyah and then about a year and a half almost later, when we actually did it, I put in a lot of effort just researching everything, and it's made our Aliyah like so much smoother than a lot of other people I heard about. I just wanted to talk about the Nefesh B'Nefesh thing. You need Nefesh B'Nefesh. That is how you make Aliyah. The government has decided that for Olim from North America, from UK, from I think that's it, yeah, because North America, both US and Canada, you go through Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they're the ones who actually do all the paperwork and everything. What we're trying to provide is, and what a lot of other organizations, AECI is one of them, all the other stuff, what, okay, I'm here, I got this problem, or I not in Israel yet, and what do I do about X? Like what kuppah should I join with the word for HMO here? Which one should I join? How do I find a community? How do I find a job? What do I do if you're like me? And actually, I keep looking over my screen because I'm actually sort of at work, even though it's Sunday. Like I work for an American company, so I don't work Friday, and I tend to work a lot on Sunday. All those kind of extra things. That's a gap that we're trying to provide, and there are other organizations, and we're trying to provide also encouragement and support for both before you come and then after you're here.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily part of Nefesh B'Nefesh mission. They do some stuff, but that they don't do. Their main job is getting you here. They offer some other services. But the main thing is getting you here, and we're trying to fill in the gap for everything else. How do you make sure that you're going to stay here? How do you make sure that you're going to be here in 10 years in Yirtzeh Hashem?
I want to say on that, thanks, Bobby. It's Bobby's actually works with us, and we've done a couple of videos with him as well that are very hands-on about various things. And you could find them on the network, on the Aliyah Network website under Bobby's profile, I believe, right?
And specifically the Practical Aliyah Tips group.
Oh, right, the group. That's correct.
I'm happy to keep it very, very practical. But if you have something to contribute, how do you buy hardware in Israel? Please feel free to contribute.
So that's a great point, because what we're trying to do here is really cover a lot of different areas, and we'll try to think of them as like a category, sort of like it starts to start at a very high level. This meeting was a very high level meeting, but eventually we're going to try to spread out and cover various categories of Aliyah and be able to drill down and really get the answers that we want. And we want to make sure that all that is completely searchable as well, so that you can go back and learn from past events very easily. I wanted to say hello to Sarah Eifert. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just so happy to see you. You got to go on. You got to unmute if you want to say a couple words, though.
Okay. Hi, I want to say hello to everyone. And for those of you making Aliyah, you should be matzliach, and it's the best decision you'll be making in your life. We're waiting to welcome you.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add something. I don't know what people's situation is, but if you're making Aliyah for the second time, Nefesh B'Nefesh does not help.
Okay.
If you have made Aliyah previously. It's only if you've made Aliyah making Aliyah the first time.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But the Jewish Agency Global Center does get involved in that.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm here in Israel already, so yeah, I just wanted people to be aware of that.
Just for the record, I haven't really spoken to Shiva since high school, so Shiva's listening. So good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah. Okay,
also,
guys.
Sarah was talking about how it's
Sarah,
the best decision of your life. And I'm thinking, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I told my wife that because I said, the best decision of my life was to make Aliyah because then I met you. And she's like, wait, you're supposed to say that I was the best decision of your life. And I was like, of course you are, honey. But it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have made Aliyah. So she kind of freaked out. I was like, no, don't worry. You're the best.
My husband says the same thing. We have people at Shabbat table. We host people. He says, people say, well, you came, how long ago you here? We're here 37 years. We made Aliyah from New Jersey. And my husband always says, well, was the best decision I made in my life besides marrying my wife. So it's all, it's equal. It's okay.
All right, listen, guys. I want to jump in and to say thank you to Aaron Soul, who's on our group right here. He's gonna just wave his hand. He's not gonna say a few words, but I just want to say that Aaron, everything you've been doing, we've been working closely for many months.